Did you know that Colorado actually boasts some of the lowest property tax rates in the entire country? It's true. But, well, there's a pretty big catch. Figuring out exactly what you owe or researching a property you're looking to buy is uniquely complex. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unlocking the exact process for looking up property taxes by address in Colorado. Whether you're a current homeowner wanting to verify your tax assessment, an investor trying to make sound financial decisions, or a potential buyer budgeting for future expenses, proactively understanding the system is absolutely essential. By the end of our time together, you're going to have a clear, step-by-step roadmap to finding accurate tax data, and just as importantly, you'll know how to avoid the common pitfalls that trip up so many people.
Okay, let's dive into this. And we're going to start with the number 64. Why is this number so absolutely crucial? Well, because Colorado has 64 highly decentralized counties. If you've ever found yourself totally frustrated trying to find a centralized statewide database where you can just punch in an address and get a tax bill, you are definitely not alone. I hear it all the time. But that centralized state search, it simply doesn't exist. Colorado's real estate administration is handled entirely at the local level. Your search has to be hyperlocal, and realizing that is really the first big key to success.
So, here is our educational blueprint for today. We'll cover Colorado property tax basics, preparing for your search, the step-by-step online lookup, interpreting the tax data, common mistakes to avoid, and finally, next steps and a quick disclaimer. Let's start with Section 1, Colorado property tax basics. Before we even think about typing an address into a search bar, we really have to understand the foundational framework that dictates where this data lives. Under the Colorado Constitution, the system operates under this dual office structure. Basically, you have two distinct elected constitutional officers in every single county. First up, the county assessor. Think of them as the appraiser. It's their job to discover, classify, and value all the property in the county. Second, you have the county treasurer. You can think of them as the cashier. They actually collect the taxes and then distribute those funds to schools and local districts. So what does this all mean for you? Knowing whether you need valuation data, which means visiting the assessor, or payment data, which means going to the treasurer, dictates exactly where you need to start your search.
Moving right along to Section 2, preparing for your search.
Now that we know who holds the information, we need to gather our tools. Doing a little prep work up front is honestly the secret to avoiding those frustrating search failures. Here's your prep checklist. First, you need the exact physical address. But more importantly, you must identify the correct county jurisdiction. A super common mistake is assuming a city name automatically guarantees the county, but boundaries can be really tricky. If you don't know the county for sure, don't guess. Instead, you can use the Division of Property Taxation's statewide GIS property tax map portal. You just navigate to their site, enter your address in the top right corner, and boom, the map generates a pop-up telling you exactly which county jurisdiction you're in. Finally, if you have old tax notifications lying around, try to find the property's parcel or schedule number. You might see it called a PIN or an AIN. Having that specific number makes your search incredibly smooth.
All right, Section 3, the step-by-step online lookup. Let's actually execute the search.
We've got our framework, we have our address, and we know our county. Let's walk through the steps systematically. Step 1 is identifying the county, which we just nailed down. Step 2, you navigate to the correct portal. A great tip here, the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, or DOLA, provides a really handy directory to find your specific county's assessor and treasurer websites. Once you're there, step 3 is inputting your address. Now, keep in mind, because these databases are managed and funded locally by individual counties, every portal is going to look a little bit different. Some are going to be these beautiful modern GIS maps, while others, well, they might look like plain text databases from the 1990s.
Let's move to Section 4, interpreting the tax data.
Now, finding the record is only half the battle, right? Once you actually pull up the property data, you're going to be hit with a ton of terminology and numbers. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is seeing how the math actually plays out. So let's set up a hypothetical scenario to ground this and make it trackable. Let's imagine you're looking up a property and the assessor's record shows an actual value of exactly $1 million. This specific scenario is inspired by tax explanations provided by Summit and Routt counties. Let's see exactly how that $1 million actual value magically transforms into a final tax bill. Here is the master formula you're going to see playing out in the background of that data actual value multiplied by the assessment rate multiplied by the mill levy equals your property tax amount. So where do these come from? Well, the actual value comes directly from the county assessor, and that's based on odd-year market valuations. The assessment rate is a percentage determined by the Colorado State Legislature. And finally, that mill levy, which is basically the tax rate, is set by local taxing entities like your fire departments and schools in the fall of each year. Let's look at how this initial math actually works in practice. And this brilliantly illustrates the very first step the county takes, which is multiplying that $1 million actual value by a specific assessment rate based entirely on the property's classification. For instance, if the legislature sets a local government assessment rate for a residential property at 6.25%, the math is just $1 million times 0.0625. This gives us an assessed value of $62,500. It's this much smaller assessed value that is actually going to be taxed. Okay, let's move on and see how this builds into the final bill you have to pay. The local districts, so we're talking your public schools, county government, water and sanitation districts, they all apply their specific tax rates, those mill levies we mentioned, to that assessed value. So if the local government tax rate happens to be 0.037633, they multiply that by the $62,500 assessed value. That specific calculation is what generates the revenue they actually need to pave the roads and fund your emergency services. Finally, when you look at your property tax statement disclosure, it's going to show all of these local tax levies added together. The local government taxes plus the school district taxes combine to equal the total taxes due. And remember this, because it's a huge point. All of the revenue generated by these property taxes stays right there within your county to fund local services. None of it goes to fund state-level services. Section 5, Common Mistakes to Avoid. Let's talk about some insider secrets. Look, knowing the math is great, but getting locked out of the digital lookup portals because of quirky system rules, that is incredibly frustrating. Syntax errors are literally the biggest roadblock for beginners. Take Arapahoe County, for example. Their system has extremely strict formatting constraints. If you try to search for South Prince Street, your search is going to fail completely. You absolutely must omit all street directions like north, south, east, west, and all street types like avenue, boulevard, or street. Over in El Paso County, their spatialist database displays approximate geographic locations rather than exact USPS mailing addresses. And in Larimer County, their portal actually suggests entering only a single search field, like just the street name, because adding too much detail can cause the whole search to air out. You really have to play by each individual county's digital rules. But what if the online portal just isn't working for you? Or maybe you're looking for historical data that hasn't even been digitized yet. Well, under Colorado law, assessment rolls and tax ledgers are public records. You can always visit the county courthouse in person to access their public terminals. Just a quick warning though, if you need the county staff to do complex manual research for you, it might cost you. For example, the City and County of Denver charges $15 an hour for prior year record research, and that's payable in advance. Down in Baca County, they charge $30 an hour after the first hour for complex manual ownership or mineral research. So keep those fees in mind.
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, Next Steps and Disclaimer.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today, so let's pivot to some really actionable takeaways. Now that you know exactly how the system works, take proactive action. Use the Department of Local Affairs directory to go find your local portal. If you or someone you know is a qualifying senior citizen, a person with a disability, or a disabled veteran, definitely look into the specific property tax exemptions and deferrals available through the state. And hey, remember those mill levies we talked about earlier? Taxpayers can actually have input on those rates. Watch for notices and attend your local budget hearings in the fall so you can see exactly how your tax dollars are being allocated. And of course, if your situation is super complex, always consult a property tax professional. And I do need to share this quick, important disclaimer. The information provided in this explainer is for educational purposes only, and it shouldn't substitute for professional advice tailored to your specific circumstances. Things like assessment rates, valuation cycles, and local mill levies are always subject to change by the legislature and local authorities. For the most up-to-date, accurate, and legally binding information, official county communications and the Division of Property Taxation are always your final authority. I want to leave you with this final, really important thought. Property in Colorado is classified by the assessor according to its actual use on January 1st of the assessment year, and that classification completely dictates your assessment rate. So, have you checked your property's actual classification on January 1st to ensure your tax burden is fair? Don't wait for the bill to arrive and surprise you. Take everything we've covered today,
Dive into your local county's portal right now and take control of your property tax data.